So we are back for today's Breakfast Bite. I'm Nathan Thomas here with a guest from Open Cloud Group, bringing us a thought for today. Hello.
Hello, good to see you, Nathan. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, getting there,
Yeah,
plodding
it's
along.
plodding along, one day at a time. That's often the best way to go, isn't it? Just one step at a time. And that is
Keep it pushing.
it's a great attitude, isn't it, toward life? Oh, brilliant. So it's good to see you again. What would be your thought for us today?
So my thought comes from Isaiah 55, verse 9. It says, "For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts." Um, Last time I shared about the perspective that we have concerning kingdom business, and that we really want to encourage Christians in business to be Christians in business. And if you have a business and you are an owner of a business as a Christian, then you are very able to create a kingdom culture within that place. We believe that the kingdom of God is an influence. It's a rule and reign. It's an authority. It's an identity of that. It's a reflection of the identity of the king that owns it. So as we advance kingdom culture in our business, we're advancing the nature of our king as well. And that's all good stuff, that none of that's bad or should not be bad. All that's good stuff. And so this verse has been on my mind because for me, I'm a creative person, and I'm I'm wired very differently to how you would say as a conservative type person. Um, and so the reason why I say that is because one thing I've noticed as we talk about vision and as we talk about other stuff, often creativity can be a big player in that. And especially now with the advancement of AI within business, you're going to have people that use it just to fulfill their tasks. And then you're going to have people over here who are creative with it, who do things that you never even imagined. And I really believe the future belongs to creatively minded people. That we want to make the most of the future that's coming, whether we're in business or not, I think we really need to up our game in our creativity. And some people will say, well, I'm not creative. But the problem with that is we were made by someone who is. We're made by a creator. So he's left his fingerprint of creativity within us. Now, it won't always look the same as the person next to you. I've got a buddy who is a genius with strategy within business, but he gets his strategy creatively as he's spending time with God. But that's his creativity. That's not my creativity. My creativity is different. And I think as long as we identify where we are creative, we're able then to bring God in and say, God, how can I use this? Number one, to glorify you, but also how can I use this to grow my life? How can I use this to, share the gospel? How can I use this to, just flourish in this next season? There's a lot of fear around AI and there's a lot of unknowns. But if we're going to make the most of this next season in business or in our personal lives, I really believe we need to be more creative. So God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts, which means that God is offering us the chance to think like him. And again, I mentioned this in the last one when that was, if we find ourselves not being creative or not thinking very highly of ourselves or very highly of anything, then all we need to do is draw close and really begin to get God's perspective on us as individuals, but also get God's perspective on what's going on around us.
Yeah, no, so true. There can be times, creative dry spells. And I mean, I do a lot of creative stuff as well. Generally speaking, it's more, graphic design or audio work. But there can be times when it's really tough. And I think it's so true that God being, the creator was quite creative. I mean, look at some of the animals we see. They are quite interesting.
Yeah.
There's some creative solutions to some bizarre problems. And we see all
Mm.
the time human technology is drawing inspiration from those problems and solutions.
That's
And
it.
it's fascinating. And so true. Each one of us is creative, just in a different way. Perhaps we think of ourselves as not in a very creative business. We're just punching in numbers or we're just sending emails, but we can do that in a creative way. And we can do
Mm,
that with passion and excitement and
yeah.
in accordance with the gifts that God's given us, the unique gifts and characters. So yeah.
Mm. I used to, for 13 years, I trained the military in sea survival and in firefighting. And so that's not a very creative environment to be in. In fact, they don't want you to be creative in that environment. They want you to do exactly what they're saying. And rightfully so. It's got to be done a certain way, which doesn't leave any room for anything else. So, as a creative person, that is incredibly restrictive. But that doesn't, just because that's not your job to be creative, it doesn't mean you can't be creative outside of your job. And yeah, I just encourage people, be creative. Whatever it is, be creative. As long as it's legal, be creative. But yeah, I think God's calling people to flourish and dare to be creative in this next season.
Yeah, definitely true. And each one of us will have a unique way of doing that. It might not look the same as somebody else. It might not be quite the same extent as somebody else. But yes, it's so true. We all have something we can do, and even if it's not necessarily work, I mean, there are plenty of, as you say, plenty of occupations where we do not want to be creative.
Yeah.
There are specific rules we need to stick to, and that's wise and that's sensible. But yeah, definitely true. Each one of us has something creative we can do, something we can create,
Mm,
which will perhaps benefit somebody else, and
absolutely.
that's really awesome. So thank you so much, Ray. It's been a pleasure as always. Have yourself a great week.
Take care.